It's another fine day at Camp Dynasty. I am Counselor Austin, joined by Counselor Collin. And we are coming off of our mid-season rankings check-in. We went through our top 12s as it sits right now last week. But now, Collin, we're back into the action. Week 8 of college football.
Damn right. We are trucking on along, got over that mid-season portion, did the mid-season rankings, back to regularly scheduled programming.
It really does feel like a mid-season, like something has changed. Like there's almost like a momentum right now. Like I'm starting to feel this tug of like the NFL draft is coming, you know?
Yeah. We were clicking our way up to the top of the roller coaster. You release those mid-season rankings, you get all your takes off, and now we're hurtling downhill towards draft season, which sounds insane to say in October, but it comes sooner and sooner every year.
I mean, the people who are truly sick in the head like us understand that like it's going to be April before you even realize it. So, but
are you going to the draft this year?
I'm going.
There you go.
Because guess why? It's in our backyard.
Exactly.
For the first time.
I can see Lambeau from my yard, actually. Like it's a little bit kind of far away over the river, but I can see it.
It's there. So you know you're going to be there, and I'm going to be there, and so it's going to be a party unlike anything we've ever experienced. Last year for me, first time at the Combine. Now we're all hitting up the draft for the first time. So
it'll be cool to see some of these guys literally walk across the stage.
Yeah. Right?
Full circle moment.
Yeah, seriously. And who is going to be walking across the stage? Well, we got 8 players to talk about today that are probably going to be in that position, hopefully in 6 months from now. Week 8, very interesting. I feel like the top performers this week, maybe not the cream of the crop, maybe not the top of the draft class, but that's always fun, because we get a bit of a glimpse into the depth of the class and some of the names that we might be picking later on in our Dynasty rookie drafts. It's a 4-round situation. We got to fill out our teams. So I won the coin toss this week.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's been a while for me. So I had to really relish this moment. I had to think about who was going to be my first pick in over a month.
Right.
And I went with Bhayshul Tuten. Now, why is this interesting? Because we had a comment on our TikTok this week that posted the top 12s, and somebody said, no Bhayshul Tuten, this list is irrelevant.
Yep. Why would they say that?
And they said it because that it was coming off of the heels of the game that he had on Thursday night, Virginia Tech against Boston College. Tuten had 18 carries for 264 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also had a 20-yard reception that went for a touchdown. So 4 total touchdowns in this game, nearly 300 yards from scrimmage for Tuten. I mean, this was really, his big moment of the season. And if you're, unfamiliar with this name, we did talk about him just a little bit in the Feldman's Freaks episode. This was a Feldman's Freak. There's not many running backs from this class that made that list. Tuten was one of them. So we kind of had our eyes on him. He had a little bit of a ball security issue last year, transferring to Virginia Tech. It was his first season of FBS. He had a great year, all things considered, but he did fumble quite a bit. He also fumbled in this game. 9 fumbles since the beginning of 2023. That's a problem.
Yeah, don't want that.
That's going to get you landed firmly on day 3 and maybe late on day 3. But the reason why Tuten remains interesting, because even despite that, is because he really is a freak. I mean, he is an athletic running back. You see it, especially in this game too. They're running a ton of outside zone, letting him get into space, and he just has this ability to, very explosive cutback ability and speed to finish these runs. He had 2 very long runs for touchdowns in this game, and both of them coming off of outside zone, where he was able to get into space, make his cut, and then just he's gone. Nobody on Boston College can touch him. So it was an amazing game for Tuten. He's having a great season. He's nearly surpassed his 2023 rushing total already. He's up to 862 this year with 12 touchdowns, which is already better than last year. So he's having a career year in his 4th season here, 2nd season in FBS. And I think, despite the ball security stuff, I think he's still a talented running back that's worth keeping an eye on.
Did you say what badge you gave him?
Oh, sorry, nuclear. He's getting the
Right.
nuclear badge.
Yes, appropriate, because he's had a lot of good games in this college football season, like you said. 5 of his 7 games, he's been over 100 yards. But yeah, I mean, you go 264, pretty nuts. This guy has when he puts the gas to the floor, he can fly. And Boston College is one thing, but these guys look like they were stuck in the mud compared to him. And they're going all out sprint, and he's still gaining distance on them. And so Tuten is a physical player, 5'11", 210. He's a strong runner, and then he's got that extra gear with that, cut back, hard, one cut and go ability. The ball security is just a real issue. You can be as excited as you want, but the guy's not going to see an NFL field if he can't hold on to the ball. So hope can clean that up, but we're running out of time, man.
No fumbles either at North Carolina A&T. Just 2 years of nothing, and now it's one of the worst clips of fumbling I've ever seen from a running back since we've been doing Camp Dynasty. But yeah, I mean, if an NFL team wants to take a chance on him because of his athletic ability and just kind of hope that the ball security stuff can be, because he does, it can be coached. He is carrying that thing, the fumble in this game. He's carrying it so loose, just putting it out there while he's going through traffic. They can coach that out of him. This is one of your token Shanahan running backs in this class. He is the kind of player that's just get him outside, let him make that read, and then let him go. We've seen it how many times in that system. All you need is a back that can make that cut and turn on the gas, and Tuten is one of those players. So
that's right.
All right, let's talk about another player that is having just a ridiculous season.
Yeah, took a week off last week from talking about this player, but he's back, and he's getting the Look Ma one-hand badge. This is Harold Fannin Jr. He, played Kent State, had 10 catches, 171 yards, and no touchdowns on the day today. He did have a goal line carry that I think got stuffed, which was surprising. Or no, that was last week against NIU. Tough game for Fannin last week. Last week was his worst game with 25 yards on 4 catches. But against Kent State, the highlight of the day was him getting the ball thrown to him over the middle, and it was above and behind his head, and he just snags it with one hand and pins it against his helmet and ends up going down. But Fannin is the most exciting tight end in this class, and there was a report that came out yesterday. Don't know how credible it is. I think it came from the Arizona Times or something, or A to Z. I don't know. We'll see. But it said Harold Fannin is considering going back to school for a 4th year. Mostly due to concerns about his size and hearing back that he could be a day 3 pick in the NFL, which is shocking because, we both have mentioned he's 6'4", 230, which is pretty small for a tight end, but that does lend itself to him being the mover that he is, the athlete that he is. He has he had the second most yards in the nation for the week and the most for a tight end. Like, this is a player that is dominant game in and game out. And yes, it's on Bowling Green. Yes, it's against some questionable opponents, but like, he did it against Penn State. He did it against Texas A&M. Like, he's done it against the real teams that they've played too. So I am interested to see if this is and if this is real, like if he's actually going to like transfer to an SEC school to prove that he can do it against like big time competition every single week. But as of now, I'm going to just consider him my tight end 1 for the 2025 class.
Yeah, this is going to be one of the most interesting stories to follow from this class because, I mean, the NFL is always going to be sizist. I mean, that's just the nature of the game. You don't want to bet on outliers necessarily, but the thing about outliers is that sometimes they work out. I mean, there for every, undersized wide receiver, there's, all of a sudden there's a Tank Dell that emerges, and it's like, it doesn't matter. And I think it becomes easier to bet on undersized players when you see them literally just, it's not even fair what Harold Fannin is doing in the MAC. I mean, you saw him doing it against Penn State and Texas A&M. Put him in the MAC against these schools, it's like there's no chance they're going to be able to hang with them. So it's no different than, Ivan Pace back in the day either. It's like the size, he goes undrafted yep. Player with his production in college, just every week in and week out, making huge plays. And now he's doing that on Sundays. He's making huge defensive plays on yep. Sundays. So I don't know if Fannin will, listen to if this feedback is real, which, wouldn't be unheard of.
Right.
If that is the case and he does go back to school, then I think, it's going to have to be one of those things where, is he going to try to add weight? Is he going to try to, go to a better program and say, hey, doesn't matter, I can do this anywhere? Like, how can he sort of, put his name on the map and erase some of these doubts? But I mean, what you're seeing this season is just so rare. It's just not even, I for as good as, and this is not me saying that he's better than Brock Bowers. All I'm saying is, from a production standpoint in college football, not even Brock Bowers was doing the things that we're seeing Harold Fannin doing this season. So that means something. It should mean something. And so it's a player that you want to root for and you want to bet on, and hopefully he gets to put his name into the hat in April.
So this is a article from Ryan Roberts with A to Z Sports, who seems to be reasonably credible. I mean, we got 60,000 followers. We're talking about, it says from people close to Fannin, it appears there's a high likelihood that he returns to school for the 2025 season. However, there's an even higher likelihood that he could end up wearing a different uniform. He's a candidate to check out options in the transfer portals. So we'll see, I guess. Hopefully we see him in the 2025 draft, but if not, then he'll jump right to the top of the list of the 2026 draft candidates.
Oh yeah. Third in receiving in college football right now. And because we use PFF, the top graded receiver in all of college football as well from PFF, 97.2 receiving grade from them. So it's been a special season. And if he does stay in school, he's going to end up at a top program next year.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about another player that is playing at a not so sexy program in college football, but having a great season, and that is Jalen Royals from Utah State. We gave him a badge a few weeks ago. Welcome to the program. I said, man, this is a real receiver. Like, you watch the film from 2023, and it's like, okay, this was a guy that he's going to have to be on the radar moving forward. And this is 4 straight weeks of 100+ yards receiving. In this game against New Mexico, 11 catches on 11 targets for 188 yards and a touchdown. He is getting the bright spot badge because this Utah State team is terrible. 1-6, but Jalen Royals, like it's like that meme with like the Lamborghini by the, like, he doesn't belong on this team right now. 106 yards after the catch in this game as well. He's up to 441 on the season. In that category, that's 4th in all of college football. We talked about that. He's got this yak threat ability, a lot of screens in this game, and he was getting a lot of yak on screens in this one. But the touchdown, which came near the end of the game, showcases the other part of his game that we talked about, which is his ability at the catch point. Very tough catch in the end zone with a defender playing him very well, and the ball fits kind of right in. I don't even know that he had a great line of sight on it based on where the defender was, but he snags it in the back corner of the end zone for a touchdown. So again, it's like we talked about a couple weeks ago. He really is kind of a complete wide receiver, not a necessarily a burner receiver. You saw that in this game as well, on a deep connection where he gets caught from behind by a New Mexico defender. But despite that limitation, you're talking about a very, steady and solid wide receiver that is going to be playing in the NFL. What level, we'll wait and find out, but very good player, Jalen Royals.
Yeah, Jalen Royals will be playing on Sundays, one way or the other. Currently, he's the 6th MWC wide receiver to have 21 receiving touchdowns in 2 seasons. That list includes Michael Gallup, Devontae Adams, Rashard Higgins. Also includes Austin Collin and John Bouressa.
God damn. The Mountain West legend list right there.
So, and Jalen Royals has another half a season to get up to. I mean, Devontae Adams is far and away, has the most, just 38 touchdowns. Rashard Higgins is next with 25. So Jalen Royals could have sole second place position for receiving touchdowns over 2 seasons. He also got helped off the field after this game, after the last kickoff. So we'll see how significant that injury is. But, I mean, this kid is just, like, open all the time and makes tough catches. And I am really impressed every week that I, watch him play. It's like, oh, man, he's making another tough catch and then making one guy miss and running up the sideline. And then the stats just end up absolutely piling up. And, excited to see what he ends up turning into as an NFL player, because I have no doubt that's where he'll end up.
Next up, it finally happened.
I mean, we kind of reverse jinxed them.
We did.
Because we said that we were going to be out. We also, one of our other comments on TikTok mentioned Ollie Gordon being on the list. He's like, why is he on this list? He's a drunk. It's like, fair. I mean, but Ollie Gordon has free fallen down both of our boards. If you listened last week, he was my number 2 player, I believe, preseason. Your in the top 5. Was that true? Something?
Maybe just right outside of it.
Yeah, something. But yeah, he ended up towards the bottom of our top 12s, and he kind of snuck in for both of us, I think. But he responds with 16 carries, 107 yards, 2 touchdowns against BYU. And then he also had 3 catches for 17 yards. Looked pretty good, man. He was getting out, and he's getting the springboard badge this week because he had 2 hurdles in this game where he cleared defenders, once on the reception that he scored on, and then another one on a big run that he had. But he looked like the last year's Ollie Gordon, where he got a little bit of a head of steam and then was a powerful back at the second level rather than getting caught up behind the line of scrimmage. It seemed like the bye week did them some good. Maybe some guys get healthy. Maybe the O-line gets a little more meshed, because it seemed like he was getting a little more help in general. So impressive day from Ollie Gordon. Can he string it together for a late season push to kind of reclaim what he had at the beginning of the season, or will the first half kind of taint this year for him? I don't know, but this is a good way to start the back half of the season.
Yeah, and this is exactly why you don't just negate an entire year of film. I mean, it's like, I understand that for 6 weeks he's been struggling, and we talked about that when we went over our rankings. Like, he's fallen down the board. Here's what we're seeing this year. Here's maybe some of the reasons why it looks like a different player this year. But at the end of the day, it's like 2023 still happened.
Yep.
And that player that we both saw was a talented running back. So I think you see a glimpse of that, Ollie Gordon of old this week against BYU, who is, a great team.
Yeah, a good team. They won this game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think on top of the Big 12 right now, Iowa State and BYU, who would have thought, leading the Big 12 right now. But so yeah, it becomes even more interesting now to see how the rest of this season goes for Ollie Gordon, because we said last week, the second half, this can have a big effect one of 2 ways for this player. We might be talking about him, coming back to school and maybe, transferring. We've seen that happen before. But if this continues, if he has kind of found something and this team is helping him out a little bit, this O-line is helping him out a little bit more, then we should be, cooking, and he should get that first round Dynasty capital that we expect him to have.
BYU number 1 in the Big 12, Oklahoma State last in the Big 12. So don't tell me you expected that at the beginning of the season.
Right. Yeah. Hey, your boy, Darius Lassiter.
That's right.
There it is, man. Great little that was the game winner, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Snuck into the end zone there. Nice little juke move.
Sure did.
All right. Let's talk about another powerful running back, one that I don't think we've talked about this year.
Nope.
Damien Martinez from Miami. So this was a player that, coming into the year, there's some, there's familiarity with the player because of who he was at Oregon State. And last season, if you remember all the way back to Washington and Oregon State, that game, which was, very dramatic. And Damien Martinez, big part of the success that the Beavers were having last year, almost 1,200 yards rushing for them and 9 touchdowns, transfers to Miami. And it's kind of like, oh, okay. I like what the Canes are building here.
Mm-hmm.
Cam Ward at quarterback, and we're getting some guys here. This looks like a good team. He's Miami back. And then what we've seen for, the entirety of this season so far is that they have gone with a committee backfield. And you saw that even in this game against Louisville, where they have multiple backs getting involved. And Damien Martinez, not this featured piece of this offense like we might have expected him to be, given his talent and the fact that he was transferring in. Well, he kind of shows you in this game why he still is the 1A in this backfield, certainly. And a lot of that has to do with the performance at the end of this game. I mean, 12 carries, 89 yards, and a touchdown. It's nothing, it's not 264-yard Bhayshul Tuten, but like watch Damien Martinez in this game, and you see a player that you saw at Oregon State last year that is just a violent runner that is so hard to get down. 6 foot, 232. It was like every carry, not even the ones at the end of the game, which were the most dramatic, but it seemed like every single carry that he got in this game, it took like 3 guys to get him down.
Yeah.
So he's getting the requesting backup badge because defenders are like, I need help. Like you gotta, I can't get him down. Like he's so powerful. 74 yards after contact in this game on 89 total yards. That kind of tells you what kind of game this was. And then you saw at the end of the game, 30-yard touchdown run to basically seal the deal here for Miami, just full beast mode. I mean, he trucks a guy in the hole, just steamrolls him, and then there's like 3 guys hanging off of him as he's running into the end zone. An incredible play, a great game, even if the stat line isn't, gaudy, but another reminder that this running back class, even not on the top, even when we get into the depth of this class, you see guys like Martinez that you can see being successful NFL running backs, maybe a little bit more one-dimensional than some of the guys that we're talking about earlier in the class, but a guy that is, probably would have been one of the best backs in last year's class. So, and this is a guy that's going to fall deeper down this list this year.
Yeah, this is a interesting player because he kind of suffers in a similar way to Quinshon Judkins at a lower level, obviously, but you look at the stat sheets and you're not blown away by what you see, but you look at the tape, and especially in a game like this where he is like putting on a show, and like if you're watching Miami game in and game out, like this guy is a monster and he's like really hard to bring down. Like, does he have his games where it looks a little tough? He does, but when it's rolling good for Martinez, and puts this one on ice, and that's why you're giving him what badge?
The requesting backup.
Because number 12 is laying on the ground after he trucks him in the middle of the field, and he's like, "Guys, please, God,
please help.
somebody
help."
Martinez is definitely a guy that when you're looking up best running backs in the nation might not pop up, but the guy's got talent to spare.
Oh yeah. God, what a ridiculous class this is.
Yeah.
The running back class is just every time you turn around, there's another guy that you're like, hey, I remember him from last year. Yeah, that's a good player too. And how about the next guy that we're talking about?
Yeah, how about another running back that we remember from last year? Devin Neal is back on the program. He's getting the ankle breaker badge. He had 108 yards, 2 touchdowns on 17 carries this year. He's up to about 700 yards, 7 touchdowns on the season. He's tied for all-time touchdowns in Kansas history. He's 73 rushing yards shy of being Kansas all-time leader, which got Kansas State next week on the schedule. You best believe he's getting that record against a rival. But yeah, he had a run in this game that kind of showed off the signature Devin Neal, where safety's coming down on him as he emerged from the offensive line, and he just hit him with a little 2-step, hit him with like a dead leg to the right, and then went back left, and the safety barrels into his own teammates. Devin Neal takes out 2 guys, hits the outside alley, and gets like 54 yards, and it's like, all right, yeah, this is exactly what I came here to see. Like, this is the Devin Neal experience. He's been playing well all season, averaging 6 yards per carry. Another one of these guys that, I mean, it's pretty sick. He also got involved in the receiving game the last 2 weeks. He had 4 catches for 45 yards last week, 3 catches for 26 yards this week. That's what we've been asking for. Get this guy the ball in space, get the ball in his hands. Yeah, Devin Neal, man, still love him. In a deep running back class, a little tougher to work him up the list, but he's doing his darndest.
But that's the thing. In a class like this, I think you and I are on the same page of like, this is one of the best backs in this class. I mean, he was in your top 12 last week, just made the cut at number 12, and he's just right outside of mine right now. So it's a testament to the player, to the body of work that he's had in his college career. I mean, just always productive. Since he stepped on the field at Kansas, he's been a productive runner. And this moment that's coming next week, this is part of the reason that he returned to school this year. It meant a lot to him to get the rushing title at Kansas. So it's going to be a great game. Nice running back duel between DJ Giddens and Devin Neal next week, and Devin Neal maybe, taking home that record. So that's going to be a great game and 2 great running backs. But Devin Neal, man, really fun player that is just continually doing everything you wanted to see from him, and even more. Even when we call on him to get involved in the pass game, then that shows up too.
That's right.
All right, let's talk about a new name, kind of. Wide receiver, Ja'Cory Brooks. I'd have to rewind the film, probably like 2 years ago at this point.
Go into the archives.
Yeah, go into the archives, like do the like AI search of like, did we ever say the words Ja'Cory Brooks at Camp Dynasty? Because I feel like we must have. This is a player that has been around for a minute, and he's been in the spotlight for a while because this was an Alabama wide receiver, a 5-star Alabama wide receiver, the number 2 receiver in the 2021 recruiting class, which was this, very, very strong and talented group that was led by Emeka Egbuka, but also included a lot of the names that we talked about last year, Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison. This was the number 2 rated wide receiver recruit in that class. And in 2022, he had 674 yards and 8 touchdowns at Alabama. And it's like, oh, okay, he's breaking out 2023. Like, let's keep our eyes on this player. And then just like nothing last year. And he dealt with a shoulder injury, but I think that only tells part of the story of a 3-catch, 30-yard season at Alabama. And he ends up transferring to Louisville. And he is finally now, as a senior, it feels like maybe putting something together. The player that you maybe thought you were getting after that 2022 season is starting to emerge here at Louisville now in a new situation. 6'3", 195. He's that tall, lanky, outside receiver. And in this game against Miami, the game in which Damien Martinez kind of took over on the Miami side towards the end, it was Brooks on the Louisville side that was really helping to keep them in this high-scoring affair. He really came on in the second half of this game. He had 6 catches on 11 targets for 107 yards and 2 touchdowns. A lot of that production, maybe all of that production actually, came in the second half. And there were 2 catches on the final drive. Actually, the last 2 catches of that drive was a big play to Brooks, and then Brooks on a slant for his second touchdown of the game to keep them in the mix. They had an onside kick chance at that point, obviously didn't get it, and then the game was over. But it seems like Brooks has kind of become the lead guy right now at Louisville. They do have some other talented receivers in that room, including another transfer, Colin Lacey, who we talked about maybe briefly last year as well. But I'm really excited by what I'm seeing. The big problem right now, the big negative on the scouting report for Brooks is his hands which have been suspect basically the entire time that he's been in college. We're seeing that again this season with 5 drops on the year for just over 12%. He had a drop in this game as well, but willing to overlook that right now when you see a player that has, this level of athleticism and talent based on the recruiting pedigree, finally starting to put together a good wide receiver resume, and a player that, might just show up to the Senior Bowl and compete and look a notch above some of the competition there.
Yeah, the catch that he had when he scored in the third quarter to give Louisville, or to tie the game for Louisville, it was third down, and he ran there just outside of the red zone. He ran a post, and the quarterback was super late throwing it.
Yep.
And the post safety had rotated under, but the quarterback had thrown it behind. So Ja'Cory Brooks runs his post, has to stop and work his way back outside to get the catch. And it was like, man, that is a great adjustment to a guy that could easily have just continued running his route and then just throwing his hands up and been like, dude, what are we doing? But he has a couple incredible adjustment plays with the ball in the air this year. He had one a month ago, it feels like, where he's going down the right sideline and the guy interferes with him, tugs his jersey. He does a full 360 while the ball's in the air, re-spots the ball, catches it, and runs for a touchdown. And it's this guy is has some unbelievable talent, has some plays that are oh my God. And that's why he's getting what badge?
God. Oh my God, the campers are just sitting there hello, can I have my badge?
Ja'Cory's standing by the podium just next to you while you talk about him.
Whoops. He's getting the scenic route badge because
nice.
He took the long way to where he is today.
That's right. I like that. And his routes are scenic because they look good.
Hey, double meanings. That's what we're all about here. Complexity, depth.
Amen.
Yeah, I don't want to say it, but the last time I watched a Louisville wide receiver that looked like this and did things like this, his name was Devontae Parker, and
Lamar Jackson.
I like that play.
Remember when they wanted him to play wide receiver?
I think he should have. I don't know that he's doing too well in the NFL right now. So, yeah. All right,
I'm not going to acknowledge
Brooks.
Devontae Parker. I can't do that.
That hurts. Great player. one great year.
One good year.
Finally broke out when the people had finally given up on him. But that'll be Jerry Jeudy next year.
That's right.
All right, we got one name left. Another new name.
This is Jaden Nixon. This is a running back at Western Michigan. He transferred over from Oklahoma State. He was backing up Ollie Gordon. Came over to get a few more opportunities here at Western Michigan, and they, after 2 weeks, decided we're going to give this guy the ball around 20 times every game, and look good ever since. Has had over 100 yards in 4 of 5 games since week 3, and played Buffalo this week, getting the hat trick badge, tried and true, 3 touchdowns. The guy, he's 5'10", 185. He's a small back. He runs with power, a surprising amount of power for his size. He's got a little bit of elusiveness. Another guy that I could see being a good back, a good receiving back, a guy that is not afraid to be physical in pass blocking. Feels like just a classic third down guy in the NFL. If he finds a role in the NFL, that would be the role. But yeah, Nixon, just an interesting guy that has had a lot of production, that doesn't often put the ball on the turf. He has 1 fumble in his 4 years of college. And so interesting to see what happens with Jaden Nixon, but wanted to acknowledge a great season that he's having.
Yeah, this is kind of an interesting point of discussion as well, because we have a lot of backs in this class that have been very productive for their entire career. And that's always a good sign when you're looking at, prospects overall profile. Like a guy like Devin Neal walks in as a freshman at 700 yards and never looks back. Guy like Nixon is just behind guys. And it's like, sometimes that's really all it is. Like, you're just behind better players. Like, he's behind Ollie Gordon last year. What are you going to do about it? So transfers obviously to a lesser program, a MAC program with Western Michigan, but it is always interesting to see then, what is this going to do for the player by the end of the season? Like, now that he's kind of showing like, hey, I got some real stuff here. Yes, he's undersized at 185, but what you said about him running with power, I mean, you saw that in this game against Buffalo, and you've seen it all season long. He's averaging 4.16 yards after contact per attempt. Sometimes these smaller guys run with better contact balance than you would expect at this size. I mean, I'm thinking of a guy like Bucky Irving, who and Bucky wasn't quite this small, but like, you just think about these guys where the size tells you, okay, this is this type of player. And then when you watch the film and it's like, oh, well, he runs way different than I would have expected, but it's the NFL level. So, whatever. And now here we are. It's Bucky Irving, shining in Tampa. So is Jaden Nixon Bucky Irving? No, but it just goes to show that sometimes, size isn't everything when a guy is showing you that he has a skill set. And I think we're learning about Nixon right now that he's worthy of, attention down the stretch to see how he finishes this year.
Absolutely. I was actually just looking at Bucky Irving's RAS card. I was clearing out my bookmarks, and I was like, remember when Bucky Irving was bad because he had a bad combine? Yeah. I do.
Remember when there's bad, the red number means bad player?
That's right.
Kyron Williams, see bad?
Yep.
Running backs, man. Just sometimes they're just weird.
Exactly.
You just have to listen to the film with running backs, especially. But all right. Well, that's 8 players from week 8 of college football. Some new names, some of the depth names in this class. But again, it's showing you why this class is really interesting in the fact that there is a lot of names to know about, and especially at the running back position, which is always an exciting thing in fantasy. So we do have to have a tough conversation, though, about one of the top players in this class. So let's make the call home. And it feels like ever since that game against Georgia, Jalen Milroe it was like he gave everything he had to that game, and then he was just spent. And we've seen Alabama lose to Vanderbilt. We've seen Milroe struggle against South Carolina. And now we've seen Alabama lose again to Tennessee this week. So what is going on with Jalen Milroe?
I think it's kind of what you mentioned. It seems like he kind of peaked too soon. You want to be peaking at the right time when you're running into playoffs, and it seemed like Georgia felt like the playoff game, like the national championship, and you give it your all and you play your best game and you look incredible on the world stage, and then you go out and lay a dud against Vanderbilt. It's like, all right, it's kind of almost a trap game kind of feel. And then you throw 2 picks and 209 yards against South Carolina, and we're concerned, but not going to press the panic button yet. And then you do the same thing against Tennessee, who's been fine this year. Like, they haven't been some of the Tennessee teams that we've had, but they're not bad. If you're going to be, you were kind of vaunted into this upper echelon of quarterback after this Georgia game. You were talked about as the runaway number one quarterback in this class. Like, yeah, all these other guys haven't really shown us anything like this. 374 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then incredible rushing production. It's like, you do that against Georgia's defense, all right, you have shown us the improvement we want to see, and then you regress right back to the player that you were last year for the next 3 games straight. It's like, that's not what we want to see out of Jalen Milroe. Is it concerning? Yeah, we're starting to hover over the red button. Got a lot of time left in this season, but we got to clean up turnovers. Get back to what we were doing in the heart of the season, in the beginning of the season, where we were looking good, looking clean. Time to throw was, 2.58 seconds against Georgia. He was getting that ball out quick. When he holds the ball, start to see a little bit of concern. So we'll see.
I think it's important to say after this stretch of games that, like, it doesn't mean that he's just bad again.
Right.
It's not like, oh, well, he's QB1 after the Georgia game, but now he's,
now it's over.
QB5 again.
Right.
It's like, I don't think that that's the case. In fact, if you asked me today, who is my quarterback 1 in this class, I'd tell you it's Jalen Milroe. There's multiple layers to that, though, because we know that this is not a strong quarterback class. And really, none of the quarterbacks in this class have really risen to the challenge. I mean, Milroe, it seemed like was getting there. And after the Georgia game, it became much easier to stand on the table and say, okay, I think Milroe has found something, and I think he is seizing hold of this QB1 spot in the class. But even if he is QB1, it doesn't mean he's the first overall pick in the draft. This is the sort of quarterback class where I just don't think we're going to have that player. I just don't think quarterback is going to be a thing in this class, because every one of these guys you can point at and say, yeah, there's some big issues there. I mean, Quinn Ewers, like literally this week, same deal, getting benched in a big game against Georgia and against the team that Milroe kind of came out against. And then you have, everything that's going on with Shedeur, all the off the field stuff, which is very real, and Carson Beck not taking a step forward at all, and maybe even looking worse this year. So you really just don't have a lot of guys that are up to the, we're going around the rock and pulling on Excalibur, and nobody is able to budge this thing. Nobody's able to claim it and be, I am QB1 here. And I think Milroe still today represents the best upside, the
Right.
most upside of any of these quarterbacks. But these last couple weeks show you that he is a player that is still very inconsistent, that still needs a lot of development as a passer. And if this trend continues for the rest of the season, then maybe there's another conversation that we're having.
Yeah, 100%. Like, when you're getting thrown out there, you're throwing 46 passes. Like, we got to see some. We've wanted to see passing development out of Jalen Milroe, and Kalen DeBoer is saying, "Hey, man, you got the keys to the car for this game, and we're gonna put this game on your shoulders, and just don't deliver." Like, it's the score 17 points. Like, would love to see us do better than that, Jalen. So hopefully, get right. We got another half of the season, like we've been talking about with all these guys. If you look like you looked weeks 1 through 5 for the rest of the season, maybe we see this as a blip on the radar. If this continues, we'll have a different conversation.
Quarterbacks, man.
Quarterbacks
and get all the attention, but that is not what this class is about. It's about our fun fantasy positions, especially running back this year. But all right, well, let's talk about the NFL. Let's talk about some of the players that are currently playing in the league. Let's gather around the fire. We're all grown up. I do have something I want to talk about this week, and it's not entirely related to specific players, but more of the idea of patience with players that we know are in certain situations coming into a season. And when those situations are exactly what we thought they were, why then do people still give up on players that were not projected to be factors in 2024, at least significant factors? Of course, the top of this list is Rome Odunze, because he was one of the premier prospects of the class. We talked about him countless times last year as, worthy of being a number one overall sort of dynasty rookie pick in many classes. And he falls to number 3 in our rankings and number 3, I think, in many dynasty rookie drafts. And what we've seen this year is his value steadily declining. When we knew that this was the thing. He's behind DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, who has been hurt at times this year, but still now we see when he's in the lineup, they are featuring him. And it's an offense that is not a finished product either. It's taken Caleb a few weeks to get up to speed. Now we're finally seeing that kind of materializing, but it just feels like Rome Odunze now, according to KTC, sitting as the 6th ranked rookie player and experiencing a fairly sizable drop in value over the course of this season. It's just, it never fails to amaze me when we go into a year and people don't see that the stats showing up, and then they're like, well, okay, yeah, Brian Thomas Jr. is obviously better, right?
Yeah, it is interesting that, we preach patience on this show, I'd say quite a bit. And you're not playing redraft. This is Dynasty, and this is a long-term thing. Now I understand that you want to win games, and it feels bad when you drafted Drake May and Jaden Daniels is, lighting the world on fire. And it's like, oh God, I really wish I would have taken Jaden Daniels. It's like, okay, yeah, I understand you'll feel like that for the first 4 weeks of the season, but then, Drake May comes out and has 2 nice weeks for fantasy. It's like, sometimes the patience pays off sooner than later. Sometimes it's like Rome Odunze, like you mentioned, and we kind of know, or Jackson Smith and Jigba last year, where they're behind 2 talented wide receivers that have, years in this league, JSN with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, and you can see the flashes. JSN is a good player, but we all also said, well, he's the 3rd wide receiver in this offense. And people just assumed that he would take Tyler Lockett's targets this year. It's like, why? Tyler Lockett didn't get any worse. He's just got a year older. So similar idea in Chicago where DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, obviously the number 1, Keenan Allen, the aging number 2, and then Rome Odunze, the exciting young player coming in. It's like, do we want to see more Rome Odunze? Of course we do. But we also knew that we have 2 established veterans that are coming off of, 12, 1,300 yard seasons. It's like, I wouldn't want to not feature those players as an offensive coordinator. So relax. It's okay. I understand Malik Neighbors is the greatest player of all time, and that's stressful. But I understand Brian Thomas Jr. is the only, guy with juice on the Jaguars in the Jaguars passing game. We knew that was we got to relax a little bit. It's going to be okay. We got a lot of time left with these players. You didn't draft them maybe you did draft them to change your team overnight, but that was never realistic. So Let's take it easy. Take a breath. The only player we can panic about is Marvin Harrison Jr.
I wasn't even going to bring it up, man, but
I have to.
Again, plummeting.
Yep.
Look at KTC. The value has dropped from wide receiver 3, 4, maybe. He's at wide receiver 7 right now, but according to their little however they calculate this number, 9,500 dynasty value. For context, like Neighbors is 9,800 right now.
Right.
This was
Max is like 9,999.
Right. So end of September, that's essentially where he is. He's in the upper echelon of dynasty assets at 9,500 on KTC. Today, he's at 8,200. And of course, this is coming one day after another subpar performance for Marvin. And I mean, what does it all mean? Why is this happening? But what does it mean in the grand scheme?
That's a great question. I wish I had the answer to be like, oh yeah, everything's okay. You know, the underlying numbers are fine. It's like, it's kind of just, he's running. They basically put him in a seasoned veteran X role, and then like teams are leveraging coverage to him because he's their only like real wide receiver, I would say. Like Michael Wilson is good. Trey McBride has obviously been very good, but they are very different players. Marvin Harrison Jr. is just being treated like a number one guy, and coverage is being leveraged to him like he's a number one guy. And Kyler's just like, I mean, if you're going to double cover Marvin Harrison Jr., I'm not going to throw it to him. Like, and it's understandable from a scheme perspective, but it's frustrating when, you know, you want him to be Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, and he's not, because he was touted as that kind of prospect. Like, we can't sit here and lie and say like, oh, Marvin Harrison Jr., we expected him to have a slow start. Like we said from the start, he's going to be the number 4 pick. He's going to go to the Cardinals, and it's going to be fireworks from the jump. And it hasn't been so far. It's been disappointing. And whether that has to do with him, whether that has to do with the offense, whether that has to do with his role, to be determined, I'd say, in general. But so far, it's just been frustrating for people that were hoping to get that instant injection into their fantasy teams with Marvin Harrison.
Yeah. Why is it happening? You're all over it. I mean, they don't have other options. This isn't a high volume passing offense either. Like Kyler is not routinely, like he has multiple games this year where he's not even hitting 200 yards passing in these games. When you are getting this treatment of a number 1 wide receiver and getting double covered as, you know, on the outside, and the other options are Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch, and of course Trey McBride, but that's different, then yeah, it's going to look a little different than maybe we were expecting. And I think that kind of, it goes to show the respect that NFL teams are giving this player as a rookie. Like they are recognizing his talent and scheming him, you know, out of the game in some cases. And what does it mean in the grand scheme of things? Nothing. I'm not worried about him at all. Yes, I would not have told you that he's going to have a slow rookie year. I would not have told you that it's going to be a player that we're going to have to wait a year for. And maybe we do. And maybe we end this year and he's not that guy, and Malik Neighbors has stolen the spotlight as, you know, this featured piece of the Giants offense. And maybe Marv just hasn't taken that step, but that doesn't mean that he's a bad player. And it doesn't mean let's sell him for whatever flavor of the day rookie we can get our hands on, Brian Thomas Jr. I mean, it's like, I don't understand why we have to be so reactionary with 21 and 22-year-old players when we're playing a game in which we get to have them for their entire careers.
Right. Yeah. Jonathan Gannon, he said the Greg Dortch touchdown happens because Marvin Harrison's being double teamed. It's like he's impacting the game in a positive way for the team. And it's like, yeah, that sucks for us to hear because it's like I want him to impact the game with yards and touchdowns. I don't want him to leverage coverage. Like that's not going to get me fantasy points. But unfortunately, that's just kind of how it goes. And then another thing I saw is, sometimes you just throw them a screen. You throw your young wide receiver a screen or a slant to get them going. They're throwing them like 12-yard back shoulder fades to like, hey, yeah, let's just get this guy the ball. It's like they're treating him like he's Devontae Adams. Like that's the type of routes that he's running and the passes that he's getting. He's not getting the little easy stuff that you would hope he would get.
And just to be clear, I feel like Brian Thomas Jr. is maybe catching some weird flack here. Great player. Great player, man. I mean, just I loved the player last year, but I would not have told you that this is what it looked like. Like, this is my number 5 player. I thought he was the next guy after the top 4, after the big 4. And I can't believe the success that he's having already in his young NFL career. This is like the opposite thing where it's like, I would have expected Marv to come out firing. Everything looks fine. I'd have told you it's week 7 and Brian Thomas Jr., everybody's panicking. Like, what the hell is this? And it's like, just calm down. Nope, that's not what's happening at all. And so he, well-deserved value climb for Brian Thomas Jr. right now, because if this is what he looks like already, then this is going to be a damn good NFL wide receiver and one of the top wide receivers in Dynasty for sure.
Yeah, Brian Thomas Jr. is 3rd in the league in yards per route run. He's 6th in the league in receiving yards. He's 17.1 yards per reception, one of the best deep threats in football already. Like, he is doing a lot of the things that we expected or that we wanted him to do, I guess. And
long term, like this is what you think he can be, right? But you don't expect him to do it now.
And he also has 4 drops on the season, which is one of the highest in the league. So there's even more meat on the bone. So we'll see, things will even out eventually, probably. Like, I don't know if Brian Thomas Jr. is the 6th best wide receiver in the league and Marvin Harrison Jr. is irrelevant. Like, I just don't think that's how the careers are going to play out. But that's why we play this silly little game, right?
Damn right, man. Wouldn't trade it for anything. Trey Benson, what the hell?
Oh God.
That's for next week, but stop it. Just stop it.
If Jonathan Brooks doesn't come out and like play well, this is going to be one of the like running back classes of all time.
Yeah. Whatever, man.
Whatever.
We got enough coming in this year for last year too.
That's right.
All right. Well, that is week 7 of the NFL and week 8 of college football. And like I said at the top, it feels like now that we've crossed the threshold of the halfway point of college and the NFL draft noise, it seems like is getting a little bit louder. There's a little more voices on the timeline these days talking about X player and Y player is, the riser of the season. That's what we do here every week, and we've been doing it since the summer. So if you've been with us through this whole ride so far, thank you. And if you enjoyed our breakdown of week 8 of college football, be sure to find us on Twitter, camp_dynasty, and TikTok at camp.dynasty. Subscribe to our YouTube channel where video feeds of the pods do go up.
They go up.
And you'll see another one this week, I think. So check out the midseason rankings up there if you so please. And like, rate, review, subscribe, share, and follow the pod feed because we appreciate that too.
Keep tuning in. We're not done yet. A lot of season left. We're
Never
going down
done.
now. We're hurtling towards draft season.
It's
Way
year
too early mock draft will be out before you know it.
It's year 3. I'm smoking 2 packs a day. I got 8
That's it?
notebooks of.
I smoke with the Zyn. Just getting the double dose.
The Baker Mayfield special. Just popping Zins whenever you lose. Whatever. Almost just made a Chris Godwin comment. R.I.P.
Right.
Come back.
God.
Come back better.
That was tough.
It's really tough. Thanks for stopping by Camp Dynasty this week, and we'll see you next week.